BlazBlue is primarily known as a 2D fighting game franchise by Arc System Works, creators of recent hits like Guilty Gear Strive and Dragon Ball FighterZ. The BlazBlue IP is no stranger to spin-offs, which includes visual novels, a rhythm game, and even a card game. With a long list of spin-offs, what's one more to add to the pile? My name's Yuo, and today we see if BlazBlue Entropy Effect, the latest spin-off to bear the BlazBlue IP, is any good, or if it's just another mediocre roguelike. BlazBlue Entropy Effect is both developed and published by 91 Act, a Chinese developer that mainly focuses on mobile releases. While this is their first foray into the PC market, this is not their first interaction with the BlazBlue IP, having released BlazBlue Revolution Reburning, a mobile exclusive side-scroller beat-em-up. So what is BlazBlue Entropy Effect? BlazBlue Entropy Effect is marketed as a brand new action roguelike with a fusion of two classic side-scrolling gameplay styles, sandbox level progression and Metroidvania-inspired adventures. Now for clarity's sake, I played the game on the 11.22 patch. When the game is fully released next year, I'll do an updated review on the finished product. Now with that out of the way, I do take issue with the use of Metroidvania in the marketing. I'm going to read this phrase from Wikipedia, and I know it's Wikipedia, but bear with me. The term Metroidvania is most often used to refer to a platforming game that features a single large, interconnected map, generally with discrete rooms or sections. Not all areas of this map are available at the start, often requiring the player to obtain an item, such as a weapon or key, or a new character ability to remove some obstacles blocking the path forward. Often this item is protected by a boss character, providing story-driven challenges throughout the game. Maps are non-linear and often require the player to traverse the map multiple times during the course of the game. Now, when I think of roguelikes that could use the label Metroidvania, a possible one is Dead Cells, developed and published by Motion Twin, so much so that the Steam page calls it Metroidvania inspired. In Dead Cells, you have to traverse a big level that generally has multiple exits leading to other biomes. The map is filled with enemies, but generally you do not have to kill them. While you can't backtrack in Dead Cells, unlockables carry over to other runs, enabling the player to explore sections they couldn't before. The currently released version of BlazBlue Entropy Effect does not feature many of the elements Dead Cells has that would promote the game being a Metroidvania in any way. Instead, the gameplay is closer to something like Hades. Developed and published by Supergiant Games, Hades tasks the player with essentially clearing rooms of enemies, picking their reward, and continuing. Unlike Dead Cells, the player will clear multiple rooms of enemies in the same biome before moving on to the next biome. No one would call Hades a Metroidvania, which of course does not detract from the game. It is really good, and if you haven't played either Hades or Dead Cells, you should. Now for some reason, BlazBlue says it takes influence from Metroidvania-inspired adventures when really only the last level of the game has a map similar to one you would find in a Metroidvania. I say similar because while it has a mini-map, has enemies you don't have to kill, and is generally multiple times larger than the levels before, it still lacks most things that would qualify it as a Metroidvania. If you read the Steam page and thought somehow this game as of right now had Metroidvania mechanics, unfortunately you would be misled. But putting that aside, is BlazBlue Entropy Effect good? Before I critique the gameplay, a couple minor things to go over. The character select art is reused from BlazBlue's Central Fiction. The game has English audio for the tutorial, Japanese audio for the BlazBlue characters, and Chinese audio for the rest of the game. I believe the full release will have full English and Chinese audio, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, the plot is definitely the weakest part of the game and is something you have to skip through to get to the gameplay. The player is in a virtual reality as these little robots, doing tests that give us a convenient excuse to play as our favorite BlazBlue characters, all while uncovering a big conspiracy. Unfortunately, it's not interesting and eats up time between runs until you get through the bulk of the current in-game plot. The gameplay is where the game really shines though. At the start of the game, you can pick any character you want to unlock. Even if you pick someone you don't like, it doesn't take long to unlock another character, so you can switch it up. Each character has their own unique weapon, moves, and upgrades. The player clears a room of enemies and is given a choice on the next room, which can be one of a couple different non-combat rooms or a normal/hard combat room. Rinse and repeat until you fight the boss of that level. Do this 5 times and your run is complete. The game is pretty generic, the levels aren't that inspired, the regular enemies are mostly just fodder for you even on the hardest difficulty, and the gameplay outside of combat is not good. 3 things help make this game stand out and become somewhat interesting, especially if you have no connection to the BlazBlue IP. Whether you win or lose a run, a version of that character is generated. You can then use that character in either the boss only mode, where you load in and fight a singular boss for rewards, or it's essentially a power up for your next run, where your next character who can't be the same one gets powers from the previous characters. I thought this was an interesting way of carrying over progress from previous runs that I don't think has been done before. Of course, the game has other methods of permanent progress that have become staples in the genre. Secondly, the game stands out thanks to the entropy effect itself. It's in the title after all. If the player does not rest in between levels, they gain more and more entropy. High levels of entropy cause both buffs and debuffs to the player, giving the player more choices in how he plays the game. The only reason this review is long, and not just me saying this version of the game is not worth $26, is because of the combat. The combat feels and looks really good. Every character has a whole tree of abilities. Abilities interact with other abilities, unlocking new combos and interactions. When the combat clicks and you're doing cool stylish combos to the enemies on screen, I don't think there's another roguelike even comparable to it. With that said, the combat system and entropy effect does have flaws. Of the 9 characters currently released, some like S need way less investment to get off the ground and to start face rolling your keyboard, while others require a little more legwork to get the ball going. On the hardest difficulty, the optimal source of damage was generally spamming my 3 abilities and 1 short combo, or even my sprint attack. That was it. Boss fights are the same, and you're spamming abilities and 1 cheese attack you can repeat. Sometimes there is a lack of visual clarity with all the effects, and you can lose track of your character. Outside of the bosses, who get more difficult with added moves on hard, the game is generally easy, even on the hardest difficulty. I had a lot of runs where I cruised to the 3rd boss just to get damage checked because I didn't find the combos or upgrades I needed, which of course never happened with S. Seriously, if you get into this game and are stuck after beating normal, just play S. Her crests are ridiculous. With all that out of the way, should you get BlazBlue Entropy Effect? The game is currently $25.99 Canadian in early access. I have 11.2 hours in the game, and that includes completing all the current content and finishing multiple runs with different characters on the hardest difficulty. It currently is not a Metroidvania, and most likely never will be unless significant rehauls to the game happen. The plot is currently unfinished, and what is there is not good. Outside of playing as BlazBlue characters and a couple bosses, there is no relation to the IP. The mechanics surrounding the combat could be better, but currently this is the best combat in a roguelike that I have played. If you want a game specifically to do cool combos on BlazBlue characters, I would say get the game on sale. If you want a full fleshed out experience, I would say wait and see how the final product is when it launches early next year. While the combat is not as good, 3 suitable alternatives to scratch the roguelike itch is Dead Cells, Hades, and Rogue Legacy 2. If you have played BlazBlue Entropy Effect before, I have other suggestions for roguelikes. Post your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm curious how others feel about not only Entropy Effect, but also which roguelikes are the top games of the genre. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't. It helps the channel grow. My name's Yuo, and I'll see you in the next one.